job is not to make me like.
No, his job is not to delegate his job
Yeah, exactly.
back on to the people.
Exactly.
His job is to actually
You said
to fulfill his job. I mean,
You articulate it.
So unfortunately,
But that's it. That's how we got elected.
I'm totally convinced that you're right, and that's the main issue here in Israel, and that's also the one thing that makes and creates a conspiracy theories and theorists, because you have people who really, like down deep, inside, they feel that if this guy, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, in one of the most experienced countries in the world in terror, and also in terror defense, if he tells me that I need to defend myself, I call BS on something here. I mean, something is BS here. Something doesn't smell right. Something is totally not right.
Because it's BS. Because you don't need to do
But
it.
the people are dying,
Yes, but there are so many. As we saw in the three events, the first attack.
So we had in Beersheba.
We had in Beersheba.
We had in Hadera.
In Hadera.
So Beersheba, it's the capital of the southern part of Israel.
Yeah.
Hadera
the
is
third biggest city in Israel.
True that. Bnei Brak is situated right in the middle of Israel.
That's the third one.
Bnei Brak?
Bnei Brak. That's the last one.
True that. Yeah. So we had in Hadera.
Hadera.
Yeah, we had Hadera, the second one, which is a little bit to the north from the central part of Israel.
Yeah. So this one is two cousins, two brothers with guns.
So two people came in. So we had in Beersheba the knife attack of that lone attacker. We had in Hadera a couple, two people,
two brothers,
two guys,
two
whatever,
cousins,
siblings, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, come on, we call the Arabs and the Jews siblings, I mean.
No, I mean they're related.
I know. I'm just kidding. It doesn't really matter. I mean, so two guys with a whole
two cousins,
a ceramic vest
from El-Fahim,
bulletproof vests. 1,000. They had a case like full of not a case. It was a duffel bag filled with knives and guns and handguns and bullets.
They come organized.
They really were organized, and they came to Hadera. They by car from
El-Fahim,
which is also a little bit. It's an Arab Israeli town. It's one of the biggest, and it's situated also in the center towards northern part of Israel, in the northern part of Israel, and they came
these
from
guys,
there. They're Israelis.
So yes, make it clear for the listeners that don't understand the
it's a Middle Eastern accent. We have to do.
No. I mean, not everyone understand so we have in Israel what we called Israeli Arabs, which are 20% of the population here in Israel.
Yeah.
So 20% of the Israeli population are actually Muslim, Christians, Arabs.
Yeah.
Okay? And they live
two of them came to Hadera.
Two of them, which are Israelis, not the Palestinians. I mean, this one we're not calling, the Israeli, not calling the Palestinians. They're from Palestinians' origins, but they're not from, let's say, Palestine. It's complicated.
So these two guys
came to Hadera.
Unlike what you just said, they don't think like you because they think themselves as a Palestinian.
But no, so the listeners,
whatever for sure,
understand the difference.
But it's BS.
No, it's not BS because they have what we called a blue. They have
blue IDs, Israeli
blue IDs. They can move in Israel like Israeli citizens.
But everyone knows that the Arabs, the authentic Arabs of Israel, they don't like the things the way they are being ran.
Some of them. We're not getting there.
It's not
now.
It's not.
But I just wanted to make clear the difference between the Palestinians. When you hear Palestinians, most of the time you hear of people living in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip, and these two guys.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
It's also the inclination that you have. I mean,
of course,
as these two guys.
But
so let's tell the story about it. So they came to Hadera from El-Fahim.
Yes.
They opened fire, random, and they waited for this bus to come and for people to get off the bus. And in Hadera and in Israel generally, we have a lot of soldiers, a lot of army forces that are, just coming and going. So they waited for this bus, for the people to come off the bus, and they've seen that the soldiers and police officers and whatever, came down the bus. So they started to opened fire, and they killed two of them. Two of these
border patrol,
border patrol police, and so they killed them, they shot them dead, and then obviously other police guys heard the shooting, Israeli, not who were in the vicinity, and they
responded
and killed the attackers. And also again in Bnei Brak. Same
so that's the third. That's the third one
in Bnei Brak. Which
not
is
exactly the same. And again, it's a different person coming this time from the West Bank. So crossing the border in a car. Yeah, but there is a difference. There is kind of. So this guy with his car. Cross alone the border, open the gate, cross the border
with an M16
with an M16
weapon,
in the car, cross the border, get into Bnei Brak, which is one of the busiest city in Israel. A lot of religious people, so a lot of people on the streets at all time.
It's one of the most packed towns in the world, I would say. Like it's really, really.
It's like Brooklyn, where all the yeshiva. It's
Orthodox.
A lot of the Orthodox people.
So he made a killing spree, GTA style, and it's not laughing about it. It's just really he was like anyone he saw, he was trying to clip and to kill. So unfortunately, he killed 4 or 5 people, and again 2 of
11 person. All in total, 11 people got killed last week. And so to come back to the gun issue, so all
that Naftali Bennett, the prime minister, told the people to carry.
So without even having Naftali Bennett asking us to get ready, all of these 3 attacks were at the end. All those people were gunned down by either civilian or quick response from the police or the army.
2 out of the 3 were police officers responding and killing the perpetrator, the terrorists. And the other was a bus driver, as we said earlier. So this terror attacks, we are not new to it. I mean, Israel is quite, used to these kind of things. We are streaming now from Jaffa, and you can maybe hear at the background. You can hear a police officer.
I wasn't sure.
You can hear a cop, the cops, and beeping and honking. Again, it's tight and it's very, stressful times. And
it's crazy times. And again, so now let's get into the
nothing new except the fact again that the last time that we had such an intense bombing,
week
terror attacks was 20 years ago. 2001. We had the second Intifada, which means the resistance, the Arab resistance against the Israelis. The first one was at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. And again, each time it's due to the same basically reasons that the Israeli government actually, it's the same like it was with the Los Angeles during the 90s riots. The Afro-Americans got pissed so much at the American government that they just, rioted for a whole week or maybe more.
Not the same. Not the same
with
at all.
Firing and shooting and killing. And
but the meaning is different. The motive, excuse me.
I think it's one entity patronizing. I think it's one entity patronizing, the other. Which is Israelis, Jews, mainly patronizing the Arab locals, for whatever, and because the Arab lost the war in 1948. So now they kind of like in between, the sledge and the hammer, or whatever you call it. They're in between. They've been thrown under the bus, and now they're being asked to sit quietly, and let us do our job. Anyone would get pissed, mainly the Afro-Americans.
No, of course.
In the United States, the same thing,
Not the same.
Again, I think it's the same by we took advantage of you, we disrespect and the whole thing, it's
Not the same.
okay.
At all. I mean, if you're asking me. I mean, we have a conflict of countries, of land, you can argue that we have a religious conflict here in Israel. But it's not a conflict of ma'amadot, of whites on black, of, high rich people against lower classes. It's not that kind. It's like we are actually occupying, we can talk about that word, a land that they're claiming to be their country. And that's the clash, and that's the issue. And it's not because they're black. It's not because they're Arabs.
So we know the narrative. It's not new to
On the
us.
contrary, no, exactly. On the contrary, I think that what pissed them off even more is that they see that we can even go alone with other Arab countries.
Yeah.
Since the Abraham Accords that happened last years, I think the Palestinians feel very frustrated because all those years they were thinking, okay, the Israelis are beating us down, but
one day the Israelis going to pay and we're going to get something out of it.
One day our brothers from Qatar, our brothers from Abu Dhabi, from all those countries, they will come to save us.
Yeah.
And what they're seeing happening right now is the contrary. They're seeing peace accords are being signed. They're seeing Israeli hopping on planes and going on vacation to Abu Dhabi, to
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
You mean Dubai?
Dubai, in Dubai, having relation, starting to talk about business, commerce. And I think it's very frustrating them because now they feel totally neglected, totally alone. Those Arab brothers that were supposed to come and be on their side, they're not on their side, they're fraternizing with the enemy, which is us.
Isn't it funny that the Israelis, if we're talking about the Abraham Accords and about the agreements, I mean, isn't it funny that the Israelis had this personality of, us against all of these Arabs around us, and all of a sudden it like finished by just these Palestinians, Arabs. With all the rest, we don't have any problems already.
We have some with some of them.
But I mean, like we have agreements with them now, business, but only with these Palestinians who never got to nothing, who were stuck in this Gaza Strip, no technology, no prosperous, nothing, and obviously they feel neglected.
And that's why I think...
So why wouldn't they go blow up and shoot down and kill others?
I'm not getting in the conflict right now, but I'm
not justifying, I'm just saying, I mean, you can understand,
You're totally right. I'm not getting into the conflict right now. I just wanted to, make you understand the state of mind of a Palestinian. 20 years old, 30 years old,
born in the first Intifada.
Doesn't have a country, have a flag, but is not recognized by anyone. And maybe having this feeling of being part of something bigger, the Huma, the Arab countries around him, and they're not coming to save him. We have peace.
Let's open the door for all the Palestinians like the same way we do for the Ukrainian refugees, eh? Let's open the door for the Arab Palestinians who feel themselves refugees.
That's not the issue.
No, I'm just shooting out of my head. I'm just thinking because I mean, if they feel neglected, if they really, and I'm not saying cynically,
they are neglected.
They are neglected. They don't have anything, to their name because they all of these years they grow up in Gaza, and Gaza being bombarded so many times. I mean, They never had any chance. I mean, let's take them to us.
You know that they're still calling, and we are still calling some of the place where they are living, some of them in South Lebanon, some of them in the Gaza Strip.
And in Jordan.
And in Jordan.
In Syria.
We call this Machane Plitim.
Refugee camp.
Refugee camp.
Yes.
So where are they refugeeing from? What's the meaning of refugee camp come from? Yeah. And it's come from 48, from
1948, 1967,
67,
the wars Israel
when
had.
When they flee Israel and they actually start to living up in refugee camps. Yeah. So at that time it was refugee camp. Now
it's a city.
It's 2022. Yeah. It's a village. It's a town. It's not a refugee.
It's a whole city, and people were expected.
It's countries.
And like it's funny. It's not really funny, but it's like they're being expected to make something of themselves, out of this hellhole,
But they have no chance. They
obviously,
have. I mean, we're doing. Obviously. I mean, now we can talk about ourselves now. I mean, we Israel.
Yeah.
We're doing everything in our power to have them leave the land. So that's what the Israeli government is doing for years. Have them leaving. Go find another place. This is the state of mind of the Israeli government. Don't help them. Do nothing.
The state of mind of Israel state.
Yeah.
The state of mind of state of Israel. I wanna talk about an offshoot of this conversation, because to many people around the world we're blowing wind out of our asses because it's not a new thing. But again, we kind of like, because it's a new show, we kind of got like we're laying down
the basics.
Yeah, the basics. So
and you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, many 20 years old,
yeah.
Even in Israel. Yeah. I'm a teacher. I'm not sure I say that last episode, but I'm teaching at the university. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised to realize how much Israeli young people have not a clue of what's happening here in Israel. Yeah. Next time you meet a 20 years old, ask him to point you the Gaza Strip on a map and tell me what he says. Ask him to point you Syria on a map, Jordan, Egypt, Sudan. I mean, I'm not saying we're stupid. I'm saying we're not very well educated about what's happening in our own country, and this is for a reason.
In English, you have a word for it. It's being dumbified. D-U-M-B, dumb.
Exactly.
So let's talk about an offshoot of this thing. I mean, today's episode of the Sandbox is going to, again, we're talking about the current events in Israel and also around the world. And we started and we talk about the week we had, which is filled with terror attacks, with dead, with murdered people, and it's a horrific week. Also, the people are scared. The terror is more than the 11 people were were murdered. It's about the whole country, the whole feeling of people being terrorized. So one of the offshoots
that's a good point to get into.
I want to talk to you about is that in 2014 in Israel there was this article by this guy who is basically doesn't really matter, but he said that United States established ISIS and Israel did the same with Hamas. So anyone who doesn't know Hamas is basically you can again argue about the volume of success and notoriety, but ISIS and Hamas basically are the same, okay? It's a terror organization that proclaims to be some kind of Muslim
brotherhood,
prophetic brotherhood of some sort that will kill and stop at nothing to execute its ideology. So ISIS and Hamas basically what this main Israeli, one of the famous online magazines in Israel, Mako. Again, this is from the 2014 article. So it says that the Obama government helped to establish ISIS organization in order to fight Assad's army in Syria. and that Israeli government helped to Hamas organization in order for them to, so to speak, would lessen down the Fatah organization.
The PLO, what we call the PLO.
Yeah, the Palestinian Liberating
Organization, which
yeah.
in the 90s was the one making the most troubles,
Yeah.
Hijacking planes, you know,
And we have to also-
Arafat,
and
which now look like, you know, a gentleman
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah.
these Hamas people.
Yeah, well. So also he points out the guy who wrote that article that United States.
He has a Peace Nobel Prize. Don't laugh at him.
Yeah. United States supplied weapon to the Afghans during the 80s in order to fight the Russian communists over there. So these Afghan people, after the 80s and the Russians left Afghanistan after 8 and 9 years of fierce fighting, and where the Russian lost, also the United States, but this is for a whole different live stream we'll do in the future. So again, we just want to show you that the offshoot of this topic is that basically, unfortunately saying, Israel and the United States and the big countries around the world, they have more interest for these entities, ISIS and Hamas, and they're like, for them to be in existence, they have more interest than
At that time.
I don't believe that was at a time, because again, Israel paying Hamas still paying Hamas each year with the help of Qatar.
So explain that. Explain that like I'm
millions of dollars each year.
Explain why. Because again, our listeners, I'm not sure they're knowing what you're talking about.
So the politics is like this. Nobody really likes the Palestinians around the world. Neither do the Arabs themselves. They just think that the Palestinians are like a hot potato. Nobody wants to hold it in its hand because they're refugees. They have so many issues. Nobody wants them, okay? But because it's a public of almost 2 million people here in Israel.
More than that. Almost 4. Sorry. We have...
You said 20%. 20% out of 9.3 million.
No, I'm talking about the Palestinians living in the West Bank and in the
in
Gaza
the West
Strip.
that are not being considered to be citizens of... Sorry, you totally right.
We're talking about this one.
4
those
million
Palestinians.
people, okay? It's not something to take lightheaded. You have to be very serious about it. And the Qatar, nation, they said, listen, if you want to do any business, to Israel, if you want to do any business, if you want to be anything like whatever, business-like country, you have to take care of the Arabs in your sandbox, the Gaza, and Judea and Samaria Arabs.
Which means you have to pave the streets, you have to create school, to have healthcare, you have to have a police.
Yeah, so the Israelis said, listen, we're not going to do it out of our own pockets, we're not going.
We're not paying for that.
We're not paying for that shit, And the Qatari said, you know what? We'll do something in the middle.
We'll make part of the payment.
You'll allow us, the Qataris, okay, to fund it, okay, in Gaza, in Judea, Samaria.
Some kinds of government.
Yeah, some kind of government
So
structure.
it's not the Wild West over there.
So each time you can see it at the beginning, it was like literally like James Bond suitcases being carried. Cash filled, suitcases filled with cash being delivered from the Egyptian side. Physically, with armed people and stuff, and it's been moved to Gaza, to the banks of Gaza, and you can see
with the agreement of Israel.
With the agreement of Israel, yeah, with the agreement and the approval of Israel, of course, and the people were standing in line, like getting the dollars. Literally, got like $100 per soul or whatever, And you could see the people. So the Israeli looked at it after a few times it happened, and they're like, "What the are you think you're doing? You're actually literally paying the terrorists who just killing us.
Some of them.
You're paying millions of dollars. And I mean, how can you twist it and turn it and then show people who are...
Some of them.
So this is one of the offshoots that when we talk about the terror in Israel, we have to also mention the fact that Israel actually is standing behind many of the infrastructure, and I'm talking about viable infrastructure, money paying for equipment that bombing us or shooting at us.
The police in the Gaza Strip, obviously.
And also, again, the welfare of the people who are doing it, So if not the money that buys the rockets, that money buys the time and pays for whatever people, terrorists who are doing then later, going and build bombs and shoot them
and the kind of policy that they are putting on their own people, because we know the big difference between Hamas and PLO is that the Hamas is a Muslim extremist organization that try to have not חוק מוסלמי.
The Sharia?
The Sharia on their people.
Halacha,
the halacha.
The religious law.
So they're rules by religious people, and the thing that they're doing there, it's horrible to women, to homosexual people. They're killing like it's the 16th centuries.
Are you doing a demonization of the Islam now?
No, not this kind of Islam is not nice with women. Is not nice with anyone that doesn't want to be part of the game.
I don't want to be a spokesperson for the Islam. It doesn't need me for sure, and I'm nothing close to the Islam except me being Jewish Russian, which is Semite. Islam
it's not the Islam.
Semitic.
It's those kinds of people.
I just wanted to say
using Islam to get crazy.
Yeah, but I want to, listen. I'm not going to compare the United States to the Islam, but I want to tell you that the women's rights were only constituted, being legislated and being talked into something viable and serious in the United States only during the 70s. So, women being neglected in the most westernized country on earth, which we call the United States. Afro-Americans being treated as dumpsters.
But again, we're trying to move things forward.
No, I'm just saying that there is no difference whatsoever.
Today there is.
Today I'm talking about there is no difference between Islam and the Islam of the United States, or the Islam of Israel, or the Islam of Canada Trudeau, you look at it from your own westernized eyes at this Muslim, 13th century laws of Sharia that says women are bad, and stuff like that. But when you look at really the freedoms, basic freedoms, so Justin Trudeau in Canada gives women's rights, freedoms, like no questions asked, but on the other hand, he has no problems whatsoever, to disallow, to take out of, how do you call it, to forbid for free people from going on planes or trains because they are not vaccinated.
Of course, but it's not, okay. Let's not mix
it. It's just fucking fascism that changes one another, and you have this kind of, they have this kind of.
Yes,
they all been born to this shit.
Still, yeah. They're not, and we can have, maybe next episode we'll talk about Trudeau and what I think about him. And you remember me being here with the Canada flags, and I'm not his friend.
Today you with Chicago.
Today I'm with Chicago.
Yeah.
Go Michael.
Chicago Bulls.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
They're not they're not stoning people.
Who?
The Canadians.
Fuck that shit.
No, fuck.
BS.
No, they're not.
Sorry, it's BS.
When
you have all the police, when you have the...
let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a simple...
Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Comparable. It's not comparable.
Coming and bashing the shit out of you.
Yeah, that's happening once.
Breaking into your house.
Again, you're mixing stuff. Let's say you have a teenage girl like I have.
Yeah.
Where do you want her to grow up? In Afghanistan with the Taliban regime, or in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in France, or even in Canada? There's no comparison.
It's not a comparison.
Trudeau did some shit stuff. We can talk about it, but it's not Taliban.
That's why I'm not comparing.
It's not
it's absolute.
The state of mind where you are a woman, you're a less person. Final.
It's not a comparison. It's an absolute fascism in both places at the same time?
No. It's not absolute. One is absolute, and the other one is like newbie in fascism.
But it doesn't matter because it is fashion. Period.
It's matter because in the next election, it's gonna get kicked out. And
you're optimistic. Okay, so let's.
That's why we're both here.
So let's agree that if the fascism that Trudeau introduced into Canada, and I'm using Trudeau in Canada just as the so
comparison.
to speak. The opposite side, which to show there is no really opposite side. But again, let's agree that when Trudeau will go away, you'll see, I argue that you'll see the same laws, fascist laws, okay, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to stick in one form or another. And you'll be, okay, and you'll see that I was right telling you that it's absolute. Because when I suffer from fascism, it doesn't really matter to whom it is, from what it is that he suffers, because
I get your point.
I get your point. Fascism that it shouldn't be there.
Let's agree to disagree. Yeah. I get your point. I think religious fascism is something that it's starting to get rid of in some countries, some not, and we're having that here.
It's true.
In some,
it's true.
Some form on others. Yeah. And there is another kind of fascism that we've seen these last 2 years, especially with the COVID, passports and mandate and all this bullshit that they're put on people, especially what happened in Canada, in Australia, all these places. But I think it's kind of a different form, and it's not the form that kills you on the streets, like literally stone you on the streets or killing you on the street, bullet in your head, like you have actually happening in the Gaza Strip.
And also in New York, and also in many other different places where you have a white police officers that getting scared of somebody who looks like blacker than them, and that maybe he holds a gun, or maybe it's just his baguette. And then they shoot him down horrifically,
Totally
just
agree,
because they
but
thought something. Yeah,
I think
again, I'm not comparing.
Saying this is that is delegitimating the issue that this is bad.
It's not what
because when you say everything is bad,
I'm not saying because I'm just saying that if you compare it, so if you take these things and you compare them, so the U.S. government would say, you know what, we not even close to what the Arabs are doing in Israel, so shoot them down, It's nothing. Shoot these motherfuckers down. Black, shoot him down. Looks like he's armed, shoot him down. Why? Because we're not even close to what happens here in Israel. Only if we get to what happens here in Israel, then we'll know that we actually exaggerating.
It's not an okay to go shooting people.
No, obviously. I'm just saying that's why you cannot compare. I mean, this is a fascism. This is a fascism. So people won't think that if they're not in Israeli state of things right now, it doesn't mean that their state is fine, I mean, they have their own fascism. We're just talking about our own, not comparing, just talking, riff-raffing. Let's
go back to the state of mind of being terrorized. That's something that you... Yeah, okay.
Less philosophically, let's do it through the current events. One of the things that people around the world don't know, and I think it's really important to put an emphasis on it, is that the fact that actually Israel is opened. The borders are opened. The fences, they have holes in them, and people are
holes.
I mean, it's a hole opens.
It's an hole. It's an all hole.
You have the fence here. Okay, it's like an entrance to. On the right side in the photo, you can see that's one of the places where.
That's where he crossed. That's actually where he crossed. He opened that gate with his car. He cut the bolt, opened the gate, and went through.
And that's what I want you. No, but just a second.
Why he could do it?
No, but just a second. Okay. I just want to lay down the facts. So, in Israel, you have these many kind of cross points where you can actually cross in between Israel and the West Bank and other places. And also between, obviously, Jordan and Israel, and obviously also between Israel and Lebanon, and Israel and Syria, and Israel and Egypt.
Yeah, it's more complicated.
We have holes in this whole thing. So I mean, Israel allowing these people to cross because they are workers.
This one, yes.
Most of them who cross, they are workers. They come to work in Israel with no social rights, with no benefits. And this is one of the pluses that Israel actually enjoys, so to speak, because
cheap labor.
Cheap labor.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. It's not even cheap. It's free labor because they're
almost
being paid 2/3 less than usual worker in Israel. And also they have no social rights. So if, God forbid, and it does happen, if people getting killed in the construction sites, like today we had a 30-year-old guy fell down about 10 stories and got killed.
It's happening all the time. Yeah.
But so that's what I'm saying.
Exactly
And
right.
these people, they have no rights, so they cannot claim anything. And if they're getting killed, I mean, okay, too bad for you. So this is one of the things that I want to put an emphasis on, because Israel actually doesn't close the holes, doesn't want to close the gates or the fences. It actually enjoys the fact in many ways that this kind of situation is kept on going and allowing these people to cross. So this guy is not a surprise to anyone.
Obviously. So let's make it
The
clear
terror
to understand. Most of the border in Israel are border with fences, so people understand. It's like a 3 meter high
I would
fence.
reckon 6, but yeah. Some 3, 4,
depends,
and some 6. Yeah.
And you have a road on both sides.
Yeah.
And in Lebanon, it's hard to cross that border. You have the army on that border all the time. There are some points that are complicated to manage all the time, but this border is very hard to cross. In the desert in Egypt, it's like whatever goes, you can walk it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in the West Bank, the idea was to make a border like Lebanon style.
Yeah.
But it created a problem that suddenly we didn't have enough people to workers come to Israel. So Israel kind of make a blind eyes on people crossing in different places, places that are well known.
Yeah.
I mean, people who need workers, they know to be there on the other side of the border, waiting every morning for these people to cross illegally.
Same issue, by the way, in the United States.
Exactly, it's the same. So it's kind of a secret that everybody knows about. The army knows about it. And every time that someone is crossing, it's like, oh my God, how he did it. How? Like the rest of them crossing every morning? I mean, that's what we're allowing them because we need them to work, to build our building in Tel Aviv. And
so the tragedy is actually the tragedy of the terror attacks of this week are the fact that actually we knew about these things could happen, and we knew where from, by whom, because some of these terrorists were actually known to the
again, the two Israelis, one of them was in
Israeli jail.
In the jail, yes.
Yeah, for exactly these kind of
for
things.
trying to create a cell, an Al-Qaeda cell, something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes. It doesn't really matter.
I mean,
you can say anything. And
they knew about it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So that's the double tragedy, that they knew about it and that they allowed it to happen. And when I'm saying allow it to happen, I'm not exactly saying that they knew that the Shabak, like the internal intelligence in Israel, that they knew about this guy going to kill someone and that they allowed him to do it. But I do say that all the people involved in the safekeeping of Israelis' borders, they know about these, so to speak, little things like these holes in the fence, and they do nothing in order to stop it, and also because they depend on it. They depend on it. The economy depended on it.
It can't be stopped. It can't be stopped because we need them. They're coming to work in Israel every day, and they're actually part of the economy. It's a very complicated problem to close the whole West Bank down, to say, okay, it's a lockdown. I mean, we have some lockdowns. Before COVID, we actually had that terminology.
Let's do some. Let's talk about a little bit about. We talked about the terror. We can talk about it for ages, but now we are preparing for another. Maybe we have a draft of reserves. We have people from different army units and police units being called for service. Small quantity for now, small amount of people, but it may grow with time. Depends on how bad or how unsafe the government of Israel would say that we are. And also, a funny thing, Bennett said, expect in the next month for the terror attacks to grow more and more. And I'm like, how would you know that? And if you do know, it means that your intelligence works quite good. How come that if you're so strong and such a Rambo, how did it happen?
So that's why, and that's the thing I want to talk. I wanted to talk with you about. That's exactly why he's he's playing into the end of the terrorist, because he's actually agreeing with the terror manipulation.
State of mind. Yeah.
He's actually being part of it because he's thriving out of it. This is how he came to power.
Exactly.
And he needs people to be in that state of mind of being afraid all the time, because when they're afraid, he can be seen as the savior, as the one who have the answers. And that puts him in a position when you don't have to actually address the real issue that we have in Israel, which are economic, religious, health issues, the issue that people have every day. Yeah. He can put everything away and say, it's all about security. I will be your daddy. I will be your savior. Yeah. Believe in me. Vote for me.
Reaction solution. Like when you have a problem, I have a solution.
That's exactly what's happening in the West Bank for years. That's how these guys came to power. The PLO, this is what they're doing. This is why so far the Palestinians have no chance. Yeah. Because they've been like...
They're a tool to mean.
They have been like took down by this organization that claiming to be there to save them, but actually Hamas is the best example.
Hamas, Fatah, Jihad Islam.
They're actually using them as, basar totachim, as cannon meat. And they're sending them for their own power. And that's why we don't have a chance to change that paradigm of being afraid of each other.
So let's talk
because it's good again. Yeah. It's good for both sides.
So let's talk about. We don't have much time left, but let's talk about war on again Iran, and let's talk about also a little bit about Ukraine.
The war with Iran is the best example ever.
Okay, because let's lay down the facts that in the past 2 weeks or whatever, again, the Americans are looking, because of the things happening in Ukraine, between the Russians and Ukraine, and also between the western part of the world and the eastern side of the world, the oil and the energy market is changing. So much so that the United States, although signed sanctions against Iran, now, because of the depletion of Russian oil and the access to it depleted, the Americans are looking for a different partner to play ball with. And this partner is no other than the Persians.
Why
the Iranians.
Again.
So they are considering, just to make
maybe there will be a change.
So the Americans consider to change the agreement, the nuclear agreement with Iran, so to make Iran a viable player to play ball with oil games, because up until 2 minutes ago she was not any member of of the United States friends, and so now the United States wants to change it, and the Israelis has a big problem with it. They have a big problem with it.
But again,
with changing it. Let's talk a little bit about it, because you made the peace factory.
But again,
we love Iran.
It's all politics.
Are we about to get a war with Iran?
No, not even close.
Enter into a war with
We're
Iran?
not.
No.
I don't see it happening. I mean, again, for years
we're really trying. The Israeli Mossad really tries to blow up every fucking thing. Sorry for
years,
the French.
We have this rumor of wars with Iran. And again, it serves both sides. On one side, it serves Netanyahu, which used this to gain power, because he was like, I'm the only one who can deal with Iran. I'm the only one who can break an agreement with the Americans, blah, blah, blah. If the left, God forbid, get in power, they will do all in their powers, all the mistakes, and we will get killed by the Iranians. And you have the same rhetorics happening in Iran. You have the Ayatollahs, saying we have to be strong because the Israeli is the small Satan, and the American, the big. You know that at the entrance of schools, some of the schools, the university in Iran, they have flags of Israel and the United States
at the entrance.
At the entrance, it's draw on the concrete, and so you have every morning when you get into your school, you have to walk on it.
Isn't it stupid?
And no, it's not actually.
It's stupid.
It's not, because it's
the fact that they have an imprint of the Israeli flag in Iran on the soil of them, and it's been shown to everyone. It's like
everyone,
there
every
is no
morning.
Bad publicity,
It's a bad publicity because you have to walk on it every morning.
But you see it. You remember.
Yeah, but you have to remember that this is the enemy. This is the enemy. I'm walking on it. I'm walking on you. I'm killing you. And that's how you dehumanize people. That's how you make them.
Why don't you think that they kill? Why won't the Iranians slaughter all the Jews? Because there is a big Jewish community in Iran. Why, if the Israeli flag represents, I don't think so, but there are many people around the world who does think so, that if the Israeli flag represents the Jews, or the Jews in the Israeli flag are the same by the state of Israel and whomever.
Yeah, but not for them. They have a small community of good Jews. Like we have community of good Arabs.
I don't think it's a good Jews versus bad Jews. I think that's the fact that Israel as an entity, unlike the Jewish entity, is a totally different ball game than
but again, you have to
the Iranians.
You have to look at the history and understand that, we understand that it's all political and it can change. In the 70s, Israel was actually a good friend of the Persian. We have amazing relation.
Up until 1979.
Until the revolution, the Islamic revolution that happened in Iran. We were having, you still have big structure built in Iran by the Israeli government. Did you know that the helicopter, the army, the Air Force, the Iranian Air Force helicopters was created by Israelis officers?
You mean the platoon, the unit of helicopters?
The whole ideas of having helicopters flying, the whole issue around helicopters, the whole helicopter shit. I don't know how you call it, but
they took it from Israel. You see, okay. Israel gave it to
Israeli. Actual military officers from Tzahal, from the IDF, went to Iran and explained them how to do it.
Isn't it funny?
And we had good relationship. We were at that time friends. And why not? You can easily understand that in 2-3 years from now, as we did with Qatar, maybe we can be again
strike a peace accord with the
why
Iranians.
not? And
I'm pro. You're doing.
I'm obviously. I would be happy to have our next, broadcasting from Tehran.
Isfahan.
Why not?
Let's do it from the reactor in Bushahar.
But it could be. Imagine the Middle East being like Europe. Imagine that we, being friends, actually making business with all this country around us, having a European Union of the Middle East, working all together. Why not?
That could be very nice.
That could be amazing.
So let's talk 2 minutes about, I know it sounds bad, 2 minutes. It's more than that. We have to in order to cover it. But let's talk a little bit about the Ukraine thing going on over there. It's the...
we're switching like...
Not much. It's a war.
From a war to a war.
Yeah.
From horrors to horrors.
Yeah, from terror to horror to war. 39th day today.
But
the war between Russia and Ukraine. I call it a World War III, but, time will tell. The Ukrainians actually on the upper hand because, A, it's their home ground. Russians, after a whole month and some, already tired and exhausted, so they regrouping in order to, again, to regroup and to replenish the things that the necessities in order to keep on going. And we get, I think for the first time, news about atrocities, war atrocities done by the Russians to the Ukrainians. I don't want to go to the atrocities yet,
to the details,
but let's a little bit talk about how does this war going to affect the world now and in the foreseeable future, in the near future.
I want to react on with you on the atrocities, because I think
we still don't have any, like, we can't validate any of this. So, but I do say it because it's out there.
I saw today a paper in the BBC actually saying this happened in Busha, but let's wait a few days.
Town.
I want to react on what you're saying, and it's related to what we were talking before. It's the terror, the fact that you kill civilian, and you you show this to the people, and you kill them in a manner that terrorize you. That's what terrorists do. Why they're going and they're trying a killing spree on the streets? Because it's sending a message. The message is, you are all targets. Be ready. Be afraid all the time.
Like Charlie Hebdo in Paris.
We can get you anywhere at any time. And that makes you feel vulnerable all the time. Anytime this happens, you have people not sending their kids to school, not getting on buses, calling, psychological psychologists, getting treatment. It's creating a huge wave. One person with one knife can destabilize a whole country for a few days.
But let's talk about the Ukraine.
And that's why it's related to what we saw last night in Ukraine.
Okay.
Those images, I think what the Russian wanted to communicate is, we're not nice. We can't do this kind of, you're not winning. We are those, be afraid of us. We will kill you, we will exterminate you. This is the meaning of it. This is what they're communicating to the world, because you can't say it's made by mistake. You have intelligent people on all parties. In Hamas, Putin, I guess, is clever.
But we all know that. I'm trying to get the added value.
No, we're not. We're not, because we may think. No, because we may think when you're looking at a conflict from your side, you may say, or you may believe that the other side is crazy. You may say, oh, they are crazy, they're beasts, they're horrible, they're killers. They don't love their children like we do. We are different. They are mechablim. We have a word for it in Hebrew. Everyone that we think that is an enemy in Israel is a mechabel, is a terrorist.
It's not a terrorist, it's a disruptor.
Yeah, but he's not a
It's
person. He doesn't have issue. He's a terrorist. And that's the message, and that's the horror of what the Russian did in Bucha, sending those pictures.
I'm sticking to my question. What would be the next foreseeable future in this, because of the war, in the war itself between Ukraine and Russia? How does it going to affect us?
Us here in Israel?
Or around the world, yes, of course. Now that we're on the 39th day, we have almost 20,000 immigrants came to Israel, refugees, also from Russia, by the way, thousands of them from Russia.
We talk about it like a few weeks ago. I think in Israel, we are in a special place in the middle, because we have such a good relation with Russia, and we also have good relationship with Ukraine. So we've kind of the neutral party so far. We kind of Switzerland.
Isn't it funny?
It's not.
I mean, come on, we're suffering from terror attacks. We've been considered to be like motherfuckers towards the Palestinians, yada, 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 do. And all of a sudden we are sitting here.
Yeah, but again,
sitting here trying to mitigate between two fighting countries doing the same thing we did 70 years ago.
On a geopolitical map, you can understand that Israel, it's not like the United States or England or France. We can't provoke Russia. We need to have them on our good side because of where we are sitting on the map. And everyone is first thing first. I take care of my family.
Yeah.
I take care of my issues. And then if I can help you, the Ukrainian government have asked for Israel to send them Iron Dome.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah, the rockets. Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah, obviously. And thank God we didn't.
And that's why. Because we're like, okay, let's see what's happened. By the way, we're a small country. Let's see what the big countries, the NATO of the world, the United States, the Trudeau of the world do. And then we'll decide.
It's funny, the Jewish people of the world really believe the bullshit that the state of Israel tells them.
Yes, this is how you create nations.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I
But
mean,
it works.
Look at us, me and you, talking here about whatever we're talking here. I mean, these people outside of Israel listening to us, they maybe know these point of views, but I mean, to them, they're like, what the hell are they talking about?
We didn't even. I mean, to me, we didn't even address the issue.
Oh, we can talk for ages.
We talk about the facts, but it's very complicated to make someone that lives, let's say, in Europe or in the States, understand the feeling, the special feeling
the terror
of being in a terror state of mind, of understanding what it is to have been in so many terror attacks around you. That you're not even giving a fuck. You're like, whatever, I need to go to work, I'm going there. Yeah. Whatever happens. Yeah. It's such a different state of mind of walking the streets of...
That's why we laughed about the corona and the COVID when people try to convince us, the state of the terror, like... that there is some kind of an upcheat that's going to kill you, sneeze that's going to kill you, and people going to take it for serious, as if they're not deciding every day to go to the work while it's going to blow them, to pieces, might blow them to pieces, that
Ilyan,
decision?
do you know one Israeli that didn't lose someone?
No.
Either in a terror attack,
or
either in the army or in the war. Do you know one Israeli around you that can say, I wasn't touched by this whatsoever?
No.
It's anyone.
No. But
it's everybody.
That's why I'm saying, why would people, the state of Israel, talking a little bit about the corona, why would the state of Israel or the people in Israel, would give a flying, on the corona, on the COVID, on that sneeze?
That was nice for 2 years to be part of the world.
It was nice to be afraid of bullshit.
Did you see that for 2 years, no terror attack?
No, nothing. No, what?
I mean, we had the rockets.
May last
we had
year.
The rockets.
And we did have a short but yet very prolific, so to speak, terror escapade a year ago on May. But I see what you mean.
For once, we were having the problems
of the
world. We were part of the nations.
Yeah, the problems.
They were afraid of COVID. We were afraid of COVID. They were clapping at the windows every evening. We were doing it. Double masking. We did it. It was nice. Now it's back to business.
We were so happy to be part of the world that we
were so into it. We were the lab.
Do you know?
We give ourselves to be the laboratory.
Think about this kid that tells a joke for the first time and he sees that somebody is really laughing from it and he's like, okay, let's try another one. And then he sees that the people laughing.
It's working
more. Yeah. So it's the same with the vaccines, with the jabs. Israel said, oh, we are part of the nations now. We are having the same problem.
People actually talking about Israel in a good way.
So does that. That's what I'm trying to say. So so Israel said, let's do something. So the world wants a jab. They want a vaccination. Let's say that we have one. Let's pretend that we have one. Oh, look, they enjoy it. Let's do a second one. Third one. Let's for a fourth one.
I was watching the news. I was watching the news in France in that time of period, and every evening they were quoting the Israeli Ministry of Health, like, look what they did. They did the first jab. They're moving to the second. They're doing this. They're doing lockdown.
They're trying to make you envy.
We should do what Israel do. Yeah. Israel was the first country in the world of being vaccinated. For, since the Eurovision in the 70s, since Abani Bi, Abane Be, we were something.
Yes.
We were winning at something.
Yes.
It was nice.
It was nice. Maybe that's why we did it, It's not because we don't know it's bad shit and whatever, but hey, we're winning. Come on,
Come on, we're good guys.
It's like to be a junkie, like you stop with this, it can kill you, but why? I'm enjoying myself.
You remember at the beginning of it, Netanyahu was saying on TV that every prime minister of the world is trying to getting on the phone to ask him how you do it, how you stop COVID. You remember that?
Yes, and the Prime Minister Naftali Bennett wrote a book.
He actually did a book
on how to stop a plague.
How to win a plague.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Win the fucking issue we have in Israel, and then,
They don't know how to stop a poor, like two people with a gun, and it tries to stop a sneeze from happening. I mean, come on, dude. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for you being here, listening to us. Thank you, Ronny.
Episode 2. It was nice.
It was nice. Yeah, I think we got.
I'm always finishing with the feeling that we're scratching the surface.
It's true. We can talk about it for ages. But do remember, we don't have the crowds that, more. Well, that's a tiny bit. It's a start.
So let's build it. And by the way, for those listening to us, if you're living in the Middle East, you're part of the Middle East, you're living in Iran, you're living in the West Bank, you're from
your camera.
You're from the Gaza Strip, you're from Morocco, you're from, I don't know, you're from Germany, and you're a Palestinian. Actually, you have questions. I mean, real question about what's happening in Israel.
Let's talk.
Leave us a message here on the IE 2020.
info@ie2020.net. info@ie2020.net.
Or you can leave a comment on YouTube, Facebook, the page Peace Factory. Leave us a comment. We will go through all the comments, and let's start a conversation.
I think it's not only a conversation. Let's talk over the phone. I think we can call some next time.
We can have you live on the show, talk with you.
Someone with from Iran. That would be interesting.
That would be nice. If you're from Iran and you want to be on the show live, and we can have a chat about how is to live there. Do you feel do you relate to the thing?
Let's talk. Yeah. We have a lot of
leave us a message, leave us a comment. Yeah. We'll call you and we'll have you live on the show.
Hopefully.
That would be nice.
That would be really nice. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you again, Ronny. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you so much for having us at your living room or computer or iPhone or whatever. Feel free to subscribe, share, like, and write us down over there, the comments. And again, our site is ie2020.net. You're more than welcome to press the red bell on the right bottom corner in order to get any kind of
subscription. Subscribe.
Subscribe, yeah, obviously, to get any kind of how do you call it? Updates and push notifications.
We will notificate you.
Yeah, of us going
live
on air. So yeah, again, thank you so much. Do keep yourself intact, in order, up here, down here, and do stay away from fake news, from BS, and mainly from the media, from the main mass media.
And let's finish
poisoning our minds
with a nice. By the way, I have a tip for early fellows.
Yes.
If you meet an Arab, which is happening all the way on the streets. Mm-hmm. Some of them are Muslim, and this month It's the Ramadan.
Ramadan Kareem.
You don't know how nice it's for these guys for you to tell them Ramadan Kareem. It's like, it's like one of them telling you Chag Sameach, and you're like, why? This guy is actually seeing me.
Yeah, he knows that it's my...
Yeah, it's not that it's my time of the year. So
Yeah.
again, Ramadan Kareem for you guys.
You know that's, by the way, it's the time of all three, it's Easter, it's Pesach, and it's Ramadan.
It's all the combo.
It's the combo. So, yeah, Ramadan Kareem.
Yalla.
Have a nice week.
Put the music on.
I'll put the music
The
on.
jingle.
The jingle. The camels.
The
and
camels.
Yeah, so derogatory.
The Middle East.
So derogatory. But on the other hand, it's nice, It was so quiet here. No industry, no oil, no nothing. Just camels.
Camels, sands.
Nice.
The Sandbox.
Yeah, that's why we put it. That's the Sandbox. Let's put it.
See you, man.
See you, man.
Next week. The belly dancers.
Like David Attenborough, BBC?
Yeah, exactly.
And the camel is reaching the female mate.
Exactly.